I want you to know, Miss Cindy, that I appreciate you being here. I know that we missed the past few weeks and many people were getting caught up with the We Must Own book with the reading. How did you feel about the length of section 2? Have you finished it?
No, I haven't finished it. I went through, the first part since I got it a little late. So I missed like the first part, but I jumped in some of section 1, and then I started today on what we're going to discuss.
Mhm.
So the
Okay.
length is good. It's really good information.
Mhm.
Like today, the section 2 property types classifications. I didn't
Mhm.
realize it's so many classifications.
Right, right. So you know what? So today we're going to be discussing section 2 of this book and finishing section 2. Section 2 is probably a good 25, almost maybe half of the book, where I really dig into the foundation of real estate investing. And most people have they just know one method of investing. They know about flipping houses because that's something that they see on TV and they hear about that, or they may know about buy and hold, which is where you'll just have a rental property. So in section 2, I go through about at least 15 different ways to invest in real estate. And I want to offer something for everybody because I want everybody to know that anybody can invest in real estate, but everybody doesn't have to do it the same way. And so some people feel excluded. I mean, some people won't even buy my book, honestly, because they exclude themselves from this information because they automatically say, well, I don't even own a home, or I don't even have a full-time job, or I'm not old enough. So they exclude themselves without realizing there's so many different ways to invest in real estate, and you just pick your path and what you want. So the goal of the last 2 book clubs and this final session today is to pick your investment strategy. For you to pick your investment strategy, you decide which way you want to invest. And then once you decide which strategy you want to implement, whether that's active, moderate, or passive, then you pick your property type. So different strategies can be implemented with different types of real estate. So some people, they say, I want to buy land because land is the one thing that there will never be any more of. And land is the one thing that does not depreciate. I don't know if you know that. I'm an accountant. Land never depreciates. So it's one of those things, if you're looking for an appreciating asset, some people just say, I just want to buy land and that's it. I don't want to do anything with it. Then some people, we've gone through all these different strategies for investing and we finished those at the last session. But some people say they want a residual income. Well, residual income can be multiple different property types. So you can make money residually from houses, from retail centers, from, you know, multifamily apartments, from commercial buildings, hotels, like residual income can be earned in a lot of different ways. So you have to be specific. You can earn residual income from a piece of land that you put a cell tower on, or you plant trees on and you allow people to harvest the pecans off of your trees, or you lease your land and you allow someone to farm it and pay you a percentage of it. So there's a lot of ways that you can earn residual income. But that's some people's goal. They're not necessarily thinking a strategy and a property type, they're thinking the outcome. The outcome is I want residual income, right?
Uh-huh.
Some people are saying they want long-term wealth, so they want to amass portfolios of property because they know that the wealth of America was built on real estate. So when you look at McDonald's, McDonald's is not a hamburger company. McDonald's is a real estate company.
Yeah.
When you look at Blockbuster, or all these companies, they invested in real estate. That's the only way they were able to survive when their business model evolved or the industry evolved or they had competition. They were leveraging their real estate to still have a competitive edge because you carry your real estate on the balance sheet of your business. So some people will just read this book or participate in this book club because they already own a business. It's unrelated to real estate investing, but they actually want to own the building where they operate their business to help create continuity and assets for their business. So there's so many different reasons why. Some people want a tax savings. Some people, they don't need residual income. Matter of fact, one of my investment partners does not want me to pay him any of the cash flow because he doesn't want to pay taxes on it. He's only investing in real estate for the tax savings. So some people that have income and they're looking for ways to get tax breaks will take their money and invest it in real estate, and they'll end up getting money back, or they'll end up having a lower tax liability because of their investments. So everybody has a different reason why. And then everybody will select a different strategy, and then everybody will choose their desired property type. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm on Instagram now, I'm on Zoom, and I'm on Facebook. And I'm sharing these nuggets because I really truly believe that I'm not successful if I'm the only one that gains success. If I'm the only one that knows this, then I'm not a successful person. And there's so many people that do not really live by that principle, but I do, because I know that, and there's so many people, I know that it takes a village. I know that the scale of impact that I want to have, I have to teach other people. If I want to go buy an entire community, which is what I'm doing, I have to train other people to be able to go out with me and do the same thing. And that's what I'm doing through the Comma Club community. So if you're not already following Comma Club, go online. I'll put it in the chat and put Comma Club, follow Comma Club on Facebook, follow Comma Club on Instagram, follow Comma Club, go to our actual website where I post most of our resources on our actual website. And you can become a member for free now at commaclubcommunity.com. So trying to do it in all these different platforms at the same time, but let's see if I can do it one at a time. Here it is. Okay, so I'm tagging it on Facebook now. And then if you all on Instagram, if you want to learn more and just consistently learn about real estate investing, then you can go follow my Instagram page at Comma Club Community. I just put it in the chat. You can also purchase a copy of the book on their website. It's called We Must Own. Okay, so Miss Cindy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, and Miss Moss, you're here on Zoom. Welcome back. How are you today? We're about to dive into the last section of section 2, and we're going to talk about we're going to talk about all the different property types and classifications. Property types and classifications. So
I'm sorry, Farrah. The mute button wasn't showing. How you doing? I'm glad to be back. And what did you ask me?
Oh, I just said, how you doing? Welcome back.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you once again for having me and everything. So I'm gonna go back on mute so I can finish listening.
Oh yeah, I got another praise report.
Mm-hmm.
One of the people that I've been training about real estate, they purchased their first investment property, and it was exactly what they wanted. It was a husband and a wife, and I did a training for about probably 8 weeks. And they were sitting next to me. They came every week. And at the end of it, just recently, they bought their first short-term rental in the woods in Texas. I think or in Oklahoma, somewhere in Texas, I believe. And they're so excited. And so what I'm looking to do is just share you all's results, because the Comma Club is all about building and growing our commas. Our commas is our wealth. So we start with no commas. Maybe we have $100 in the bank. Then we get to the $1,000 range where we've got some thousands in there. We're like, woo, I got $1,000 saved. And then we get to $1 million and we're like cheering each other on because we're in that millionaires club and we've got those 2 commas, right? And then the goal of all of us should be to get to that 3 comma level where we're billionaires and then eventually trillionaires. And then we just keep growing our commas collectively until our volume of properties and income is wealth, is generational wealth. We'll not have to work anymore. We'll not have to uh, have our children start where we started, which is my goal. You know, I gave my son his first key when he was 5 years old, and I put it in his hand and I said, son, this is your house. And every time I take him with me to my houses, I say, these are your houses, because I don't ever plan to sell these houses. So, you know, these are your houses. So as an 8-year-old, I'm teaching him and instilling in him wealth principles. And so he says things to me at the dinner table like, Mom, what should I be investing in? Can I invest now? You know, those sorts of things, because I want him to have that value that I didn't know. I wasn't trained in those things. And so I want that to be the culture of this community where we are training and having conversations at the dinner table amongst family and friends about real estate investing and about just investing in general and about owning property. So let's dive in. We're about to talk about property types and classification. So Miss Cindy says she didn't know that there were this many property types and classifications. If anybody is on Instagram and you want to participate in this, you can go to Facebook and click on the Zoom, because I'm about to be sharing some videos and photos that you're not going to see. So I think I'm sharing my screen. All right, I want to share with you all some different property types so you know what I'm talking about when I show it to you. So well, first we're going to talk about single family or residential land. Okay. So have you ever seen just an empty vacant lot in the middle of a neighborhood? You know, you've got a house, and then you've got a piece of land. You know, that would be considered residential land. I'm trying to find a picture of it, you know. Let's see, vacant land. Yeah. Can you all see my screen? Okay. So you'll be in the middle of a neighborhood and you'll see an old house, and then a piece of land, an old house, another old house, right? And then somebody will come along and buy that piece of land that's in between those houses, and they'll build a new house. So then you'll see a new house in an older neighborhood. So some people's investment strategy is that they want to build new construction, which is called infill housing. They want to build new construction residential properties in an existing neighborhood. Why? Because they know they can leverage the value of those existing homes to be able to obtain financing from the bank, to be able to have a guaranteed appraised value. Typically in an established neighborhood, you're going to be closer to a city center. There's going to be nearby schools. So it's a less risky investment to build new construction in an already existing neighborhood than it is to go out to the countryside and build a house that you plan to sell for profit. Now, if you want to live there, that's not an investment strategy necessarily. Of course, every home that you own is an investment, even if you live there. But I'm talking from an investor's point of view. If you'll see lots of activity in older neighborhoods, especially in densely populated cities like Dallas or like Atlanta or like Los Angeles, where there's no more large lots of land. So they will look for individual plats of land that were an older home may have been there at one point. Maybe it burned down, maybe it was torn down. And they'll buy that and they'll rebuild. And those homes are typically more valuable than something in a rural area. Excuse me, I need some water. All right, I'm back. Okay, so the next type is a single family home. So these are all residential property types. Does everybody know what a single family home is?
Yeah, is that like, yeah.
Okay. A single family home would be considered anything with less than 4 units or 4 or less units. Excuse me. So we've got all these pictures of single family homes. Just your typical American home. Okay. So I'm doing my best to hold in my allergies and all that. Okay, so this is a very common investment type, right? Because everybody feels like they understand housing. If you ever have lived in a house, you pretty much understand how a single family investment works, right? You have a mortgage, the mortgage is paid, you have to pay the light bill, you have to pay the water bill. If you've ever lived in a home, you should feel pretty comfortable investing in a single family home because as a landlord, you typically don't have to do anything much more than you would. The tenants typically they live in the home, they pay their own utility bills. All you do is collect the rent from your tenant, take that money and pay the mortgage with it, and you keep the difference. If there's an issue with the home, then you will step in and make those repairs. But you typically will budget for those things in your financial plan. So as part of the rent that you're charging, you will anticipate that there will be some future repairs and you'll factor that into the rent that you charge. So you'll have what's called a reserve account. Let's say every month you charge $1,800 a month in rent to your tenant. You might take 10% of that and set that aside in a reserve account. So at the end of the year, you would have the amount of money that you need. You would have to be able to replace a water heater or fix some broken fixtures or anything like that. So people feel really pretty safe as a comfortable starting point investing in single family housing. Now, single family housing can be new construction, it can be an older home that has been remodeled. It can be a completely distressed home, older home that needs to be fully renovated and restored. There's so many different types of ways you can invest in single family housing. So if that's your property type, then you'll just pick your strategy first, and then you'll pick your type and say, I feel safe and I feel confident buying a home. And so in the next section, section 3, we'll get more into detail about how to finance these different investments and how to position yourself to raise the money. And then there's a whole section and chapter in my book about the formulas that you need to profit based on your investment strategy. So we're not going to get into that level of detail because this is just a book club. We're just reading the book and we're talking about it. I have a course that I produced where I go into depth about the financial aspects of investing, but this is just more of high level discussion. Okay. Any questions so far? Nope. All right. So the next section, the next property type is a condo. Okay. So a condo, let's get a picture of condo going. All right. Anybody seen these all over uh, your urban areas? Yes, babe. Okay, will you go tell grandma? Okay. So these condos, let me just explain a little bit about the condos. Condos are large property complexes composed of individual units, and each unit is owned separately. So different than an apartment building where there's individual units, but they're all rented. Condos are sold to homeowners, and so they're sort of like apartment style, but they're owned separately. Ownership usually includes a non-exclusive interest in community property, like a fitness center or a swimming pool or a dog park. Condominium management is usually made up of a board of unit owners who oversee the daily operations. So you'll typically have a condo association. Okay. All right, that's pretty straightforward. Condos. You can invest in condos, right? Did you know that? So you can buy condos and you can rent them out. So sometimes people will do that unless the association restricts rental property. A lot of people, when we first had Airbnbs and short-term rentals, and even in Miami and other like coastal areas, they will buy different condos on the beach or on a coastal area or in a, in an area that has high traffic or lots of vacationers. And then they will rent those out for short-term rentals or vacation properties. So that is another strategy. You have to read the condo association rules before you close on a condo, because I have had investors buy condos and then later learn that their association did not allow them to do short-term rentals. So that can be detrimental to your investment strategy if you have not read about the rules that are allowed for condos. Um, condos work in certain markets. I don't always like condos because, for the price per foot and because of the very restrictive HOAs or owners associations, and also because whenever you go to sell a condo, you're competing with your neighbors. So you might have 100 other neighbors with the exact same property. So it can be difficult to sell a condo unless you're in an area where you're right on a beach or you're on a Las Vegas strip or something like that. It's very high in demand. You want to think about your exit strategy when it comes to condos. All right. Next property type are townhomes. Okay, let's look at a townhouse. Townhouses, so they're a little bit different than condos. You see that they are attached, right? So you'll have multiple different properties that are attached. Now, you can also have single family homes that look similar to townhouses, but the difference is they are detached. So they might have a little bit of space between them, but they're still 3 stories, or they even look attached, but they're actually separate structures in between the walls, and then their exterior walls may actually touch. So you'll have to look at the property description to determine if it is actually a townhouse or a single family property. These are things that can be confusing. Okay. Anybody have any comments? I know we got people on here. Let me read what I wrote in the book about townhouses. So townhouses are an attached single family dwelling unit on a shared lot. Okay, so you've got one lot of land. If you're in an area where land costs are high and you're close to the city, you might be able to get a more profitable investment by building 4 townhomes and just building one big house on that lot. So a lot of times what we see in these really urban areas where there's dense populations, there's not a lot of land and the land cost is higher, we will see townhomes being constructed. And so that's an investment type. Okay, next is multifamily housing. When we talk about residential multifamily, we're talking about 2 to 4 units, okay? So we would be talking about a duplex, we would be talking about a triplex or a fourplex. Those would be considered multifamily housing. However, they're not really an apartment because you got to have more than 4 units to get into that commercial space. So it's easy to finance a multifamily of 4 units or less. It's easy. It's the same process as purchasing a single family home. So if you don't own a home, You can also, your first home, you can qualify for all those same incentives. First time home buyers programs, no down payment or down payment assistance, FHA loans, 3% loans. You can qualify for all of that and still get 4 units. So if you can find a fourplex or a triplex or a duplex in your city, that's your best investment for your first purchase, right? Because you get all of those different units to pay rent, and you can live rent free while your neighbors are paying their rent. They're paying your mortgage and you're living free, right? It's a really great investment strategy if you pick that property type. The problem is if you're in a major city like I am, it's hard to find a good, it's hard to find these properties. They're hard to come by. They're very competitive. So if you find one, take it. And I've had some investors very hesitant. I would find them duplexes, fourplexes in their budget, hesitant. You don't hesitate when you find a fourplex. You buy it. You buy it and let your tenants pay you, and then you make your repairs after you buy it. That's a strategy, and that is what you do for that property type. Okay. Um, any questions about duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes? It's just like a single family home, except you've got multiple doors on the same property. Any questions, anybody? Okay. So then we've got, oh, let me just say this. The best part about a multifamily of 1 to 4 units, 2 to 4 units, is that the lender will qualify you based on the income of your future rents. So let's say you work you work at Walmart. Okay. Say you work at Walmart. Nothing wrong with working at Walmart. And let's say you are making a living wage. And so you go to the bank to buy your first home and you say, there's no way I could have a fourplex. That's a multifamily. There's no way that I could buy that on my little old salary. However, you go find a property and the rents on each of those other 3 units are $2,000 a month, right? So you got $6,000 a month in rental income on the other 3 units, and you're going to live in one of the units, right? So the bank is going to take your pay at Walmart plus the $6,000 a month in rent on those units. You don't even own it yet. They're going to take the projected rents, they're going to add that to your income, and they will qualify you for that purchase based on the projected rental income of the other 3 units. I've seen many people qualify for properties like this. I've seen people in New York, very common, people in New Jersey. I've even helped close a multifamily in Hoboken or in like that area across the water from New York. Very common, where you'll see these brownstones with multiple units or people living in them. You're like, how could I ever afford that? You have to buy all 4 units, because then they'll take your income of the rents, add it to your work income, and they'll qualify you to buy a multi-million-dollar property. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Okay. So I've helped people do it. Consider it, don't rule yourself out. So if you go to get qualified for your first home, you have to tell your lender that you want multiple units. You have to pretty much go online, pick an example property, and give that address to your lender. And then find out how much the units will rent for and send that to your lender. And then your lender will compute your new approval. So I've seen people get approved for $200,000 on a single family home, but then they find a 2-unit or a 4-unit and they get approved for $600,000. It doesn't make any sense to that borrower, because they're like, I only was approved for $200,000. So they rule themselves out and they don't think that they could actually get a multifamily, because they didn't know. This is what I write about in my book, y'all. We must own. They didn't know the strategy that you have to go through to be able to qualify for that higher amount. You do the work up front, you send all of that to your lender, and then you say, what is my approval amount on a multi-family property? Okay. This isn't going to work if you have to flip it or remodel it. You can't do that strategy on a highly distressed property. But if it's a turnkey property, or if it needs very light remodeling, then the lender will credit you the future income. Here's another best part about that strategy. When you close, if that property is already rented out, let's say you're buying an income producing property from someone else. If that property is already rented out, the lender will give you a credit at closing for the rents for that month. So let's say you close on December 31st. So the current landlord has collected, I'm sorry, wrong day. Let's say you closed on December 15th. The landlord that you're buying that property from has collected rent on the first of that month. Well, he owes you that rent because you're buying the property. So for however many days of the month that you're going to own that property, that owner is going to give you a credit at closing for that rent amount. So let's say you had three properties, 3 units at $2,000 a month. Well, that owner would need to give you a $3,000 credit at closing, and he will also have to give you the security deposits that he collected at closing. So let's say he collected $8,000 in security deposits. Well, now you're about to get $11,000 credit at closing. So you might not even have to bring any money to close. I've seen it happen. People buying multifamilies and not having to bring any money to close because they're collecting the rents and the security deposits that the owner had collected on behalf of the tenants. And that's being given over to the new owner at closing. So these are the tricks of real estate investing. This is how we buy houses without money. This is how we scoot through the little crack in the door that opens for us and we bust the door down because we take advantage of these opportunities that are not taught to us. Okay, if you don't have my book, get it. We Must Own, where I'm dropping all the free nuggets. You can get it, wemustown.com. Okay. Next property type are tiny houses. Okay, people love these little cute tiny houses. A tiny house is a home that was typically going to be between 150 square feet and 600 square feet or less. It is constructed or mounted on a foundation and has utility connections. So a tiny house would actually be connected to the utility systems underground, and would have a foundation. So different property types they're movable. So tiny houses are not really houses that you would have on wheels or something like that. Let me give you a picture of a tiny house. If anybody wants to participate in this conversation, you can go to my Facebook, click the Zoom link, and then I can answer any questions that you have because we're on Zoom live. Okay, let's look at tiny houses. Let me take that duplex out. Tiny houses, okay. Here we go. Tiny houses. They have some really cute tiny houses out right now. Okay. Tiny houses are typically going to be in areas where you don't have zoning, or you don't have a high land cost, right? Because you're not going to go and put a tiny house on an acre of land, right? That's not a good investment strategy, right? So you would probably want to put 10 tiny houses or 20 tiny houses on an acre of land, but you can't do that in an inner city because of zoning. So you would invest in a tiny house in a particular rural area. Maybe you'll put a tiny house on the back of your house as an additional income source. You might even be able to buy a prefabricated, already built tiny house that can be delivered and put on a foundation. So these are some strategies. I know we're going to talk about container homes, I think. We're going to talk about container homes. Oh, I'll get to that. Okay. So any questions about tiny houses? That tiny house, you could probably build a tiny house for $30,000, maybe. Okay. So the next type of property is a manufactured home. A manufactured home is a factory built permanent dwelling unit under a federal building code administered by the Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Manufactured homes are a minimum size of 320 square feet. They're built on a permanent steel chassis to assure the initial and continued transportation ability of the home. So a lot of times you'll see, I'm sorry, let me keep reading. And are placed on site on piers with masonry crawl spaces or poured concrete foundations and remain in one place during their lifetime. Okay, have y'all ever seen homes going down the highway? You ever seen a home going down the highway? Big houses being transported down the highway? Okay, manufactured homes built in a facility and then shipped to the location where they will be put on a foundation. Manufactured homes, here we go. I do believe that we're gonna move to a different housing type, especially in other countries. We've got to be able to lower the cost of housing to be able to meet the demands of this growing population, right? We got to be able to build these homes differently. And so you're going to see a lot of different innovations into the way that homes are built, whether they're built in a factory and shipped, or whether the different pieces of the home are built in factories and shipped and put together on site. What's really driving up the cost of housing is the wood, it is the and the labor, right? So we'll be seeing homes built with other materials besides wood, with all the forest fires burning up our forests. We've got to have alternative methods to house people outside of the lumber that it takes to put inside of a home. So we're not just talking about the siding of a home that could be built with wood. We know that the framing of the home within the home is made out of wood. The trusses in the attic, the roof, all those things are made out of wood. And so what we'll begin to see is homes built out of different material types, and being built prefabricated or manufactured in facilities and then delivered on site to be able to reduce the cost of labor that it takes to put that house together. Okay. And then the next type we're going to talk about is modular homes. Modular homes are factory-built houses shipped in sections and assembled on site. Okay, so we just talked about manufactured homes where we see houses going down the highway. You've seen those big trailers carrying an entire house down the highway. Doesn't really seem like the best way to bring out like a house down the highway. What about if you'll be limited in the size of the home, right? You can't have a 2-story house going down the highway, right? So now we've got these modular homes, which are basically the different walls of the home or the pieces of the home that can be built in factories and then brought together and constructed like Legos on site. Okay, if you haven't seen any modular homes, just do a quick Google search about modular homes and you will see some pretty cool technology of modular homes. And so modular homes or prefabricated homes. Here's some examples. Wow, look at that. Can you see that, guys? Okay, so a lot of cool things that are being done with modular homes, where you take the home in sections, you build it in the factory, you bring it together, and then you can actually do your interior finish out on site, but the exterior and the roof and those different components of the home can be built in a factory. All right, you can invest in all of these different property types. Mobile homes are factory built and designed for easy delivery to their site and set up for a temporary time. Recreational trailers also fall into the definition of a mobile home. So some people invest in those big trailers that you can live in. You can literally change the location where you live. I've heard someone say they would actually turn their home into an Airbnb, and they would live in a trailer outside their home. So whenever their home isn't being rented to people on Airbnb, they'll live in their home. And whenever so they have guests, they'll go right out in their backyard and live in their trailer. And then whenever they don't want to be affixed to one location, let's say they want to go spend the summer in Arizona, or they want to, go take their kids on a road tour around the United States. They will have that freedom because they have a trailer or they have a mobile home. So that's just something you could look into. Here's a cool idea. I had one client reach out to me about building a mobile home development. So what they wanted to do was invest in land about, 60 miles outside of the city of Dallas. Well, there's so many people that cannot afford the rents inside of a major city like Dallas. So they still want to be able to commute to work, and they can afford a $12,000 trailer, or they can afford, trailers come in all different prices, but they can afford to live 60 miles away and then commute into work every day. So this person wanted to buy a piece of land and put utilities in the ground, and then have maybe 100 different utility connections, and allow people to pay rent to hook their trailers up to live in his new modern trailer community. So I thought that was a great idea, because if you look at the rents that this person could charge, they could take a $20,000 piece of land and turn that into $20,000 a month in income. So you have to think outside the box when it comes to investing, and everybody's investment strategy will not always be the same. All right. And then shipping container houses. So let's just look up shipping containers. Everybody is really like into container homes, container coffee shops. Containers are not just for residential purposes. You can stack them. You can turn them sideways. You can do all these different cool designs. You can make vacation rentals out of them. So you can pick this property type, but use a lot of different investment strategies for it, depending on, what you want to do, what you chose in section 2 of the book. Okay. So look at these pictures. Really cool. You can put a swimming pool inside of your container. They just have all of these different ideas. Let me show you some container coffee shops. So you could even start a small business. You could sublease land from an existing property owner. Like, let's say you've got um, a retail strip in your local community. And let's say you want to put a taco stand there, or a snow cone shop, or anything, a coffee shop. You could just literally buy one of these trailers and start you a commercial business out of one of these trailers, and you can rent their land. Or you could buy yourself a piece of land and do it, because we're all about ownership. But you see these containers? That's a whole business right there, with a very small startup cost. So these are things that we're going to be talking about and thinking about as we go through the book. All right, so we just went through all of the residential property types, and we'll go through the commercial property types, but I'm looking at like a drafted version of this book, and I don't have that section in this book. So I'm gonna need somebody to call out the property types for me, and then I'll go through them. Hey, Lulia, thank you for joining. All right, so somebody read to me the commercial property types, okay? Hi, Suchi. Hi, Miss Elaine.
So do you just want somebody to read them out? Commercial
Yes,
property?
just read out the commercial property types, because I don't have it in this version of the book I'm reading.
Okay, commercial land, which is
Commercial
land,
land? Okay.
land owned and held for development for industry or business purposes, or for large residential structures held for rent.
Okay,
Mm.
so commercial
going.
land, yeah, commercial land would be any land that is zoned commercially, right? So if you buy land and you buy commercial land is more valuable than residential land. So hold your land, um, until someone comes along and says that they want to develop that land. Now, what I find is that people inherit land, they don't know anything about real estate, and they like to hold that land just for the sake of saying, I have this land, right? That's not the purpose that God created land. God did not create land so that we could just pass it from one generation to the next generation to the next generation, not giving any benefit to the actual humans that are on the planet, right? So you got to find a way to use that land or sell that land or partner with that land with someone to actually produce something out of that land. You remember the parable of the person with the talent? They buried the talent
Yeah.
and then came back, or their master came back and said, what did you produce with what I gave you? I mean, it's gonna be so many people, they've inherited land, generational land, produced nothing with it, paid taxes on it for a lifetime, and never ever sought what is the purpose of this land, God? Why did you give my family this land? What do you want me to do with this land? So yes, you can buy and hold land, but while you buy and hold it, do something with it. Plant trees on it, put a cell tower on it, put a windmill on it. There's so many different things you could do with land. Harvest something on it, farm it, lease it out to somebody, do something with it. Okay. Commercial land, whether it's rural, if that land is in an inner city, if it's an inner city, somebody's gonna come along and make you an offer to buy that land from you. I'm making offers to buy people's land right now. The people give me this response. Oh, we don't want to sell that land. That was my grandmother's land. I say, okay, but what is your plans for that land? Well, I don't have a plan, but I'm not selling it. Well, are you earning any money from it? So these are the questions you have to ask when you buy land. What is the intent of that land? What is the goal of that land? And if you don't have and you don't know, and you buy land or you inherit land, partner with someone that can build something on your land and then retain equity in their deal. So let's say a business comes along and they say, I've just got to have your land. I need your land because I need to build a high rise on it, right? You're not going to sell that land. You're going to ask them to give you equity in their high rise, right? If you're smart, you might say, okay, I'll sell you the land. I want $500,000 up front, and then I want 10% equity in your business. Oh, well, now you're wealthy. You're not just rich, right? So that's the way we think about land. You want to buy land strategically based on its location, based on its zoning, and based on its proximity to different things that can be valuable, or based on the use of the land, right? So if the land is used for farming, if the land is used for fishing, if the land is used for hunting, if the land is going to be used to build something on it, that's commercial land. Okay, what's the next one?
Apartment. Any building designed for use and used as two or more separate flats or apartments, or any campus consisting of apartment dwelling units which share common services.
Okay, so apartments. Apartments, how many of you all have an interest to invest in apartments? Anybody here ever dreamed about investing in apartments? Anybody? If not, why not?
Never thought about it.
Never. Have you ever lived in an apartment? Anybody on here ever lived in an apartment? If you ever lived in an apartment, drop it in the chat right now. If you ever lived in an apartment, I know I lived in an apartment. Anybody ever lived in an apartment, drop it in the chat right now, okay? Let me look on Facebook. Anyone ever live in an apartment? Yes. Okay. So this is what I used to do when I lived in my apartment because my apartment had 500 doors. Okay. Anybody currently live in an apartment? Anybody on Instagram currently live in an apartment? Because I'm trying to do a little example. Anybody? Okay. So somebody shoot out a number or money. How many doors were in your apartment? How many doors, how many units were in your apartment? Somebody, Armani, how many doors? Put it in the chat. How many doors were in your apartment? How many doors? How many doors? 550 doors? Okay, so he had 550 doors in his apartment, okay? So we're just gonna do a little example. 550 doors, okay? How much was the rent in the apartment? How much was the rent in the apartment? You can do this example with the apartment that you lived in, 1,800 a month, okay. All right, so I'm gonna ask y'all again, when I finish this example, how many of y'all have ever thought about investing in an apartment building? Okay, so we have 550 doors and we have 1,800 a month. So the monthly rent is the monthly income is 990,000. Drop that in the chat, Armani. The monthly income that owner earned was $990,000. Put that in the chat, Armani, for me. 990,000, right? In 1 month, okay. 990,000. The owner of that apartment building was receiving 990. Okay, now how much was that per year? Okay, let's calculate that. So multiply that times 12 months. That was $11,880,000. Okay, $11,880,000 a year. Okay. Now you lived in your apartment. You mean to tell me you never, ever thought about how much money you were paying to your landlord? I'm sure you did. You're probably like, oh my gosh, I'm just paying so much money to my landlord. I'm just paying so much money to my landlord. I'm trying to put it in the Facebook. You won't let me do it. Okay. I'm just paying so much money to my landlord, right? You never thought about how much money they were collecting from everybody, right? So I'm gonna ask you again, who has ever thought about owning an apartment building? Okay, everybody hand needs to go up. Let me see some hands going up, okay? Okay, even if you don't think it's possible, you should at least let it cross your mind, okay? You should say, how did they do that? How did they do that? Guys, I want you all to know I just got approved to purchase my first apartment building, okay? I got approved to purchase my first apartment building. I'm so excited. And I will be apartment. I decree that I am an apartment building owner, okay? I'm an apartment building owner. I'm gonna say it over and over until it's done, okay? So, do you know that this is how wealth is built? Wealth is built by people buying assets, right? So the apartment building owner is not only benefiting from the rental income, they're also benefiting from the growth in value of that property, right? So even if that apartment owner only earned 10% profit on that building, he just made $1.18 million a year in profits, even if he only brought home 10% of the income after he paid all his expenses and all his investment partners back. If he took home 10% of the gross income, he just made $1 million a year. So this person doesn't have to go to work like you and me. All he has to do is rent to people like you and me, and that is his job, her job, right? Well, guess what? We're gonna to become apartment owners in the Comma Club community. Okay, we're going to learn how to do it and we must own, okay, because I teach you how to buy apartments in this book, okay? It's very possible. It's very possible. It's very, very possible, okay? The same thing as renting a house, right? If you can rent a house to a tenant, just multiply that times the number of people that live in your apartment. It's the same thing. You hire a management company. The management company manages the tenants. You don't even have to be there. You hire the management company to collect the rents, to pay the bills, right? You hire an accountant to count your money. You hire an investment manager to pay back your investors. Miss Cindy, Miss Lulia, somebody talk about it. How do you feel about this?
I mean, it seems like you can multiply your effort by doing apartments versus just doing rentals. A single family or something like that. I never thought about it that way.
Exactly. So my goal was to buy 50 houses in 10 years. That was my goal. And that seemed like, okay, well, if I could buy 5 houses a year, I'll be happy. I'll be set, like I'll be good with that. And then I saw this 50-unit apartment building and I was like, I could do that in 1 year. I can hit my goal, my 10-year goal in 1 year. And so I realized it's the same amount of effort. It's the same process. Armani is here. He can attest to it. It's the same process. Okay, it's a slightly more complicated financial process. But the actual process of buying it, writing a contract, going to the bank, applying for a loan, it's the same process. You have to get more support on putting together your financial plan. And if it needs work, construction, it's going to take a little bit more work with construction. But I don't want you to think that it's a whole different ball game. That, oh my gosh, that's only for those. And I don't mean this in a discriminating way to anybody, but that's only for those white men in suits. No, it's for this Black girl with this tie-dye sweater on. It's for anybody. It's for all of us. It's for anybody who says that they can do it. That's who it's for. So let's stop excluding ourselves from these opportunities. They're all around us. And we are in the apartment building industry. Why? Because we've lived in an apartment before. We're already in the industry. We're already in the business of apartments. We're just on somebody else's balance sheet and on somebody else's income statement instead of them being on ours. So we just have to flip the way that we think. All right, next. See, Miss Cindy, you got me on a rant, okay? You got me on a rant. Got me over here preaching about real estate. What's the next type?
It's retail. It's retail, a property housing business facility that are open to the general public or sell goods directly to consumers, including retail stores, restaurants, pharmacies, convenience and grocery stores, and seasonal and temporary businesses.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go to a retail. What's going on with my typing? Retail building. Okay. All right. So how many of you all have ever eaten at a donut shop? You ever go to the nail salon? You ever got your hair done at a beauty shop? You ever been to a beauty supply? Ever been to, anywhere that was just like a strip center, right? So we frequented these places. I want you to take the same concept of rental property and think about it from a commercial standpoint. So let's say you have a building with pretty basic interiors. These buildings there's nothing so grand about these retail strips. They've got some tile on the floor. They've got some paneled ceilings, some tiles in the ceiling. They've got some fluorescent lights. There's nothing that great about these buildings, right? But then they take them and they subdivide them, say hi, and they suite them out. So they'll rent them separately and they'll have, a donut shop and then a nail salon, and then a sushi restaurant, and then, and so on and so forth. And they'll charge rent and earn rental income on each one of these suites. Now, these buildings can be as small as, a 3,000 square foot building with 3 different suites or 4 different suites in it. And they can be as big as hundreds of thousands of dollars, like a mall or something like that, where you've got all of these different individual rental spaces in a commercial building.
Mom,
So,
can you make tea?
when I get to, is grandma here?
Yes.
Okay, ask her to do
She
it.
doesn't know how to make them.
Okay, you just stick them in the pan and you cut the oven on and then you wash them and then they rise and then you take them out when they get brown.
Can you write that down on paper?
No,
Please.
wait till I get done, okay?
Mom, let's say how to get.
Cut the oven on and then put them on a pan and then put the pan in the oven and then let them rise. And when they get brown, take them out. That's it. Ask grandma to help you, okay? Okay, so we're talking about retail. Okay, so many of you all, you have these desires in your heart already. You want to own a restaurant or, a lot of these things, I want you to think about it from the same standpoint of a multifamily. Like, remember I told you the situation where you can live in one unit and you can rent out the others, right? So if you're a business owner, you can operate your business in one of your spaces and you can rent out the other, just like a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. And you can qualify for financing to buy that building based on the rent that you're going to charge your other tenants in that building, right? So you as a hairstylist, you as a convenience store owner, you as a whatever it is that you do, you can go buy a commercial building and put together a plan to suite out 2, 3, 4, 5 other units in that building. And you can project the rents on those other spaces. And you can take those projected rents to the bank and say, I'm going to have 5 suites in this building. I'm going to charge X amount for these other 4 suites. And I'm going to use that rental income to pay for my business. And guess what? You'll buy a building, right? You'll buy a building. So we have to start thinking more strategically as business owners. How are we going to pay for our own businesses? How are we going to scale up and grow our businesses, right? So this is just like, you'll see like a like a Chevron with a Subway and a Baskin Robbins ice cream inside of it, right? Same thing. You'll see, I'm trying to give you another example. We see it everywhere. We just don't understand it. Oh, my mom is calling me. I don't know. She knows I'm online. Okay. So we'll see these things and we just don't understand how they work. Okay. Most of the deals are written on paper, they're financed on paper, and then they're brought to life. What we try to do is we try to have all the money, we try to have all of the people that we're gonna, we try to have it all figured out up front, and then we wanted to like go buy the building. No, you go write an offer on the building that you want. You find a building, let's say you find a strip center. Okay, Jamal, I see you on here. Let's say you're riding around and you find a strip center and you're like, I want to have a tutoring company in that strip center. I want to own that. And I'm going to put my tutoring company there. Oh, but by the way, I have a friend that he has a barber shop. I'm going to put him next door. Oh, I have a sister. She has a beauty shop. I'm going to put her next door. Oh, and then I'm going to rent out the other 2 suites for food because we're going to want to eat while we're working, right? Boom. There you go. You have a real estate project right there. It's not rocket science. We do it every day. All we have to do is figure out how to monetize it and how we can be the ones to profit from it. Okay. What's the next property type?
The next one is office. Office, office space, including mixed use property.
Okay. So office space, office space. I don't want to oversimplify this stuff. I feel like the way my mind works is I'm like, this is so easy, but it's probably because I wrote the book. So I already think this way. I really encourage people to not just buy this book, but to read it so that your mindset can be transformed. I think by the time you finish the book, you will think like I think. So you'll do like I do. Okay. An office building, same concept. You can have multiple different tenants, or you can just have one tenant with a bunch of different offices in it. You can have co-working spaces where you operate it and you allow multiple businesses to come into this shared workspace with common amenities that they share. Um, Office. The only difference is the building is zoned for office use. So you can have medical offices. That's a really great concept where, doctors, they're always going to pay their rent, right? They're going to have a long-term lease because they're not going to want their patients to relocate, right? So medical offices, dental offices, these are investment strategies. You can build office spaces for medical professionals and then rent them out to medical professionals. Boom. Most doctors and dentists are able to get really easy financing to pay for their offices. So these are just ideas I'm giving you for these different property types. I'm renting a co-working space because our office is flooded. The co-working space has 100 units in it. Each of the rents are between $1,500 and $5,000, $10,000 a month, right? So these people are making, okay, let me just give you an example. Let's say the average rent is $2,000 a month and it's 100 suites. So they're making 200,000 a month in gross income. And then times 12 months, they're making $2.4 million. And they're not doing anything. Let me tell you what they're doing. They gave us a printer. They gave us internet. They cut us some fruit at 2 o'clock and put some chips out for us to eat. They put a water fountain. Okay. They have somebody clean the bathrooms. They're not doing nothing. Right. But this is how people build wealth. They give you real estate. They rent real estate to people for different purposes. Okay. Miss Brenda has a question. Miss Brenda, you're on mute. I want y'all to know that I was not sending my son to go cook. My mother-in-law is downstairs cooking for him. He is not going to be cooking by himself. Okay. Yes, Miss Brenda.
I'm sorry. I was having my hand up for about the apartment complex and didn't take
It's
it
okay.
down.
We can go back. We can go back.
No, I was just when you asked the question about if we wanted to own an apartment complex, and that's why I had my hand up. I was saying yes, I did.
Okay. Amen. We're gonna do it. We are going to do it. Okay.
Amen. Amen.
If you're gonna own an apartment building, put it in the chat. I will be an apartment building owner. Put it in the chat. We gotta write these. Write it down.
Write it down.
Okay. Yes, right. And I'm gonna take yours spoken. Okay. Everybody else write it down. Okay. We will own an apartment building. Oh, we put I am an apartment building owner in Jesus' name. Okay. So the next, what is it? The next one, Miss Cindy?
It's industrial, a building or structure suitable for use as a factory, mill, ship, processing plant, assembly plant, warehouse, or fabricating, research and development facility, or other industrial uses.
Okay. Industrial uses. It says my internet is unstable, y'all. I hope it's not going in and out. Okay, so industrial uses, we're seeing, if you're in Atlanta, we're seeing a lot of those areas that were high crime, lots of transient populations, homeless, these old industrial warehouses, cotton mills being turned into housing, being turned into, restaurants being the hottest areas of town now. You see it all over. These industrial areas with these big buildings being converted to different uses. And so most times those industrial buildings are sold very cheaply because at the time they're purchased, they don't seem to really have like the original function of that building is no longer needed. It's no longer functioning. So let's say they were operating a metal, the scrap metal factory, or they're operating a cotton mill, like they're not using it for that purpose anymore. So the building is no longer valuable to them anymore. So we see these industrial buildings selling for the price per foot can be sold for a lot less, but then they may also now be locations that are in the inner city and that can be converted into condos, apartment buildings, restaurants, retail centers, and the buildings will be restored. So you'll see these beautiful brick buildings with iron and steel, and they'll have like this really cool um, open ceilings, open concepts, loft style living. Have y'all ever seen anything like that? Let me just put it on here. Okay, look at this. Can you all see that? So they're taking industrial buildings and converting them into a very desirable and artistic living experience. Look at this. I used to live in one like this. Thanks to my mother, my rent was $800 a month for 3,000 square feet, and I could see all of downtown out my window. And then 2 years into living there, my rent went up to $3,000 a month. And I was like, oh my gosh. Right, because the popularity and the demand for this living style increased. People wanted these open concepts, and to have like these really large, spacious apartments. And so the price went up. Okay. So what's the next property type?
The next one is hotel. It's a building or structure designed for occupancy, dwelling, lodging, sleeping.
Okay, well, hotels, hotels, it might be something that you have to invest in as part of a REIT, a real estate investment trust. They typically will build and manage things like hotels, or hotels might be owned by private families like the Hilton. I recently heard that there was two African Americans that purchased their own hotel. And I think they were the first like minorities to ever like own their own hotel or hotel chain. I don't have the facts. I'll have to find the article, but don't limit yourself from owning a hotel, whether it be your own private bed and breakfast, or you taking a multifamily and turning it into a hotel, or you actually having a high-rise building that is a hotel, or mid-rise or something like that. You can absolutely own a hotel or invest in a hotel, maybe through a crowdfunding investment or through a real estate investment trust, or some of the other investment strategies that we talked about in section 2. And Lulia, you have your hand raised.
Um, what are the differences of managing, like owning a hotel and owning an apartment, like besides the size of them?
So, a hotel would be you're gonna have transient living. You're going to have people who are there by the night. So you're gonna sell by the night, sort of like vacation rentals are sold. It's gonna be more like vacation rentals than it is going to be like an apartment. Apartments are rented by the year, sometimes by the month. Hotels are rented by the night. And so they're gonna be um more factored on location. You're going to want to be near a city center, an attraction, or an airport. You're going to provide access to transportation, food, and other amenities like fitness centers, swimming pools, these sort of things. Like anything in a hotel that you've ever experienced is typically like what's going to give you a competitive edge to have people book with you. And we can go through the same scenario if you all want to really break down a hotel, because I've worked on a hotel project before. Can you believe that? I feel like I've worked on every single type of investment project. Okay. Oh, 10 Black-owned
Thank you.
hotels. You can look that up online. There was a particular article where I saw of these two young African Americans that purchased a hotel, African American owned hotel investment fund. Okay, you can check that out in your free time. So let me give you an example. Let's say an average hotel has, you know, 7 floors. And let's say on those 7 floors, there are 50 rooms, so there's 350 rooms. And the average nightly rate is $160 a night. Okay. So this hotel is earning $56,000 a night. Okay. A night. Somebody put that in the chat. $56,000 a night. Now, most hotels have more than 7 floors and they have more than 50 rooms on a floor. But I'm just giving you an example. And their hotel rate, unless we're staying at the La Quinta Inn, is not it's not 160 a night. I'm just giving you an example. Okay. So 56,000 a night. And there are 365 nights in a year. So this particular hotel is earning $20,440,000 a year. $20,440,000 a year in gross nightly or gross lodging income, or whatever you want to call it. Nightly rentals, right? $20,440,000. Somebody put that in the chat. $20,440,000. So why do we want to be in the hotel business? Because we can charge more by the night, so our revenues will be higher. But obviously, depending on where you buy the hotel, my mom, you know what? My mom loves my son so much. I think she drove over here just to make him these biscuits. Yeah, my mom just pulled up. My mom just pulled up to make my son some biscuits. Okay. That's a grandmother's love. She saw me online and she came to make him biscuits. Okay, so now in your hotel, you'll have higher expenses. You will have whatever else you have, Matter of fact, the restaurant that operates inside of your hotel is going to be a third-party restaurant, more than likely. You're going to charge rent for that restaurant to operate in your hotel. You're going to charge rent for that Starbucks to put a Starbucks mini cafe in your hotel, right? So you're not only going to be earning from the hotel rooms, you'll be earning from the coffee shop, the cleaners, all these different, service providers that are operating in your hotel are going to be paying you rent to be in your hotel. But then you'll also have the expenses. Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to be charging your people for internet. You're going to be charging them for valet services. You're going to be charging them taxes and all these other hotel fees that they charge us, right? So on top of that 20 million, you're just going to be adding all of these things, the mini fridge, you're going to get you to buy a Snicker, a bottle of water, right? So that 20 million is easily going to become 25 million once they add all those extra services that they're going to charge you. The expenses will be higher because of the property taxes you're going to pay, the hotel tax. You're going to have lots of employees. that you'll have to pay, you know, uh, franchise fees if you're franchising a big name. So that's how hotels work. Who wants to buy a hotel? Somebody for sure wants to buy a hotel. Okay. And next topic. What do we have next, Miss Cindy? I'm tired.
Next topic, medical building, clinics, offices, doctors, dentists, or any medical purpose, pharmacies.
Okay. So we already talked about that.
Want the
And-
next one?
Yep.
Okay, church. Well, house of worship.
Or churches are real estate, right? Armani's here. Armani, how many churches have you looked up for purchase? Like hundreds. So churches are real estate. If you operate a church, a house of worship, you should own the building, right? Because rents are gonna go up. It's just more financially more practical to purchase your church building because you know that you're never gonna stop worshiping God, right? You're gonna be there from now until forever. So you purchase the building, and eventually, instead of paying rent, you're gonna pay a mortgage, and a mortgage on the building is going to be less than the rent on that same building, right? Let's just do a quick search for churches for sale near me. Let's see how much churches sell for. Do y'all know how much a church sells for? You have no idea. Anybody want to take a guess how much a church can sell for in the city of Dallas?
$1 million.
A million?
Hmm.
$1 million. She said $1 million for a church. Armani. She said $1 million for a church. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Churches in the city of Dallas are anywhere from $6 to $15 million. She said, wow. Yes. So when your pastor is collecting tithes, pay them, okay? Because these buildings are expensive. However, if your pastor purchased his building 20 years ago, then when the pandemic came, they pretty much weren't like tripping because they're like, we own our building. So you can stay at home, right? God has provided for us because we bought our building. I'm not trying to make church like a business. However, if anywhere there is a building, that is real estate. And you got to start to think like that. Everywhere that there is a building or land, that is real estate. All right. Anything else? Are there any more commercial uses that we have on there? I'm really trying to
Last
show you.
one is high-rise building, which is just a building exceeding 75 feet or 23 meters in height from the ground level.
Okay. I'm really trying to show y'all one of these churches. Did you say a mid-rise?
A high-rise.
Oh, a high-rise. Okay. Hold on. I just really want to show y'all one of these churches because I don't think y'all believe me. Okay, look at this one. $13 million. Oh. All right, here we go.
Does it go by square foot?
It goes pretty much by location and what the church features, but yeah. How many people it seats? Seats 980 people, $13.5 million. And let me tell you, the real estate brokers that sell churches, they need Jesus, okay? They need Jesus. These people do not care that you love the Lord. They don't care that your church is on fire. They don't care that the Holy Spirit is moving. They want their money, okay? And they want their commission as well. These real estate agents that sell churches need Jesus. Okay, next topic. Let's talk about high rises. High rises. Okay, high rises. All right, here we go. All right, it's my dream to build a high rise. I will own a high rise building. I will own a high rise building. Okay, so a high rise, here we go. This is a high rise. And, there's so many different high rises. How many stories is a high rise, Miss Cindy, I put in the book?
It says exceeding, any building exceeding 75 feet or 23 meters in height from the ground level. And then
Okay,
a mid-rise is 5 to 10 stories.
okay. So this is a high rise, okay? And then let me show you a mid rise. Okay, mid rise is 5 to 10 stories. Okay,
Yes, yes,
rise. Have you all seen these buildings?
yes.
You all seen mid rises? Okay, now you know what they're called. All right. And what's the next section?
The next section is the target market, understanding your target market.
Okay, cool. We're not gonna go into that today because I'm so long-winded. This was supposed to be an hour. So let's just finish with these high rise and mid rises. They can be used for different things, offices, hotels, retail on the bottom typically, condos. They can be used for so many different uses. So what we do is we decide our investment strategy first, and then we determine our property classification or type second. So if you read section 2 of the book, Armani, will you drop wemustown.com in the chat? We Must Own. That's where you can pick up a copy of the book. All right. So first you decide your investment strategy. Are you going to buy and hold? Are you going to build in new construction and then sell it? Are you going to buy a turnkey? Are you going to buy an older mid-rise and restore it and re-rent it at higher rents? You find your strategy and then you execute it based on the property type that you want to execute it on. And you can start from the ground up. You can start with land and you can say, first I'm going to buy a piece of land. And once I master land, then I'm going to buy a single family. And then single family, I'm going to master that, then I'm going to buy a duplex. Once I get a duplex, then I'm going to buy an apartment. And then I do an apartment, I'm going to do a mid-rise. And I do a mid-rise, then I'm going to do a high-rise. Or you could just start with the high rise, you could just start from the top down, like it just really is all up to you. Let me tell you this last story before I go. I met a young boy. He interviewed me for his job. And he took me to the top story of a building. Their boardroom was like on the top floor, let's say the 25th floor. And so as we sat there, he took me over to the window and he said, look down. You see all of that land down there my father bought 30 years ago. His father came over from France and bought a piece of dirt. It was commercially zoned land in a bad part of town that was undeveloped and nobody wanted it. He bought acres and acres of dirt, right? He said, now look out. Now it's a business district in Dallas called the Harwood Business District, Harwood Street. It runs all the way through Cedar Springs, all the way to the tollway. It connects downtown to the tollway. It became one of the most valuable pieces of property over a 30-year period, full of high rises, full of right by the American Airlines Center. So they came along and built a basketball stadium there. They came along and built hotels, the W Hotel there. They came along and built all these apartment buildings all around his land. So now he's got, just looking out the window down upon it, I can still see the land there. It's still not fully developed. And so this young boy, he's probably in his 20s, who is hiring me for a job, he was saying, me and my brother, we just look out the window and we just decide what we want to build. He said, my father comes to us and he says, what are we going to build next, sons? And we just decide. He said, me and my brother, we wanted to go out for happy hour one day, and there was nowhere around that we could go to have a drink. So we built right down there the happiest hour, which is a big bar in the middle of downtown. We just opened our own restaurant called the Happiest Hour because we wanted to go have a drink. He said, then we decided that we like Italian food. So we built an Italian restaurant. Oh, and then we decided that we needed a bank. So we built a bank, the Frost Towers. And so he just went on and on and on. And as I sat there, my mind was opened to the unlimited possibilities of what can be built by simply looking out a window and deciding whatever you envision, you can build. So from a billionaire son's perspective, he can build whatever his mind can see, whatever his mind can imagine. Well, if you are like me and your father is the king of the universe, then you can look out your window and anything your mind can imagine, you can build it too. So as he was talking about his father, I was thinking about my father. I can build a high rise too. I can build a restaurant. If there's anything I want to dream of, I'm going to build it too. And I started to do it. So, and my mom is here. So I just want to close with that statement. Don't limit yourself. We've talked about all these different property types. Whatever you can imagine, you can build it. If you can see it in your mind, you can build it. All right. We are closing for the day. Make sure everybody has purchased a copy of my book. We Must Own. WeMustOwn.com. It'll be the best Christmas gift you can give to your family members, right? Get the book in time, give it away for Christmas. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anybody have any
Thank
questions?
you.
Any questions before we go?
Do you have a community? Because what you said,
Oh,
how you ended, you're right. If you can think it, you can see it, but it's helpful to have that community
mhm,
around you to kind of share ideas, just to kind of keep the like mindset.
mhm. Yes, comaclubcommunity.com. Comaclubcommunity.com. So that's the point of this book club. This is just a part of the community. This is already one of the first things that we're doing in the community is doing this book club because I knew that many people would not actually read the book. People would buy the book, but they would get discouraged and they wouldn't read it, or they would get busy and they wouldn't read it. So I did this book club to encourage people to finish the book because it's not going to help you if you don't read it. But Comma Club Community will have courses that you can purchase. I'll go into each section of the book in detail with all the formulas to figure out the financial strategy, how to raise capital, how to manage your investment. All of that will be in the community. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Thank you.